States. When questioned about the border situation, Kamala Harris took a break from putting people in prison to shed some light on the topic by saying this: "I haven't been briefed on anything today about it, and neither have I, Kamala. Yet I somehow know a lot more about it than you do." We interrupt tonight's broadcast of breaking news that's already interrupting your mind with even more broken news. This time with a story of heartwarming sincerity. When Kamala was asked by a reporter if she'll be visiting the border anytime soon, she had this to say while hiding her face.
Do you plan to visit the border?
Not today.
In response to a human crisis situation where people are being welcomed and then jammed into inhumane living conditions, she had the heart to laugh about it while doing her best sociopathic Joker impression. Even while, objectively speaking, there was no humor present. On behalf of humanity, we all feel safe and trust you, Kamala, especially when we can't see your face.
Wow, an actually honest newscast. Who would have thought? And what could go wrong with, sociopathic people laughing at human suffering, inviting immigrants in, and then putting them in cages, wanting to also disarm the American public right now? Absolutely nothing. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Radowski of WeAreChange.org. The news is about to get a lot more absurd, especially today's article, which is confirming what we were reporting for a very long time, and that is Bill Gates will now be, this is confirmed, Bill Gates will be blocking out the sun this summer. I am not kidding you. Yes, the billionaire connected to Mr. Epstein, who is not a medical doctor. We have a shirt highlighting that, by the way, on the bestpoliticalshirts.com, link in the description, who congratulates and supports the Chinese Communist Political Party for arresting medical professionals, doctors, and locking people up, barricading them in their own homes. Yes, that Bill Gates will soon be blocking the sun from the earth. I'm not kidding you. I'm not being hyperbolic. This is even confirmed by many mainstream media outlets like The Times. But before we get to that, plus a lot more, in related absurd news, the Democrats in Washington, D.C. that have surrounded themselves with thousands of armed men along with barbed wire fencing are doing their darnest to make sure that you can't defend yourself, as the mainstream media establishment narrative has been flipped from defund the police to literally allow the police to break down the door of innocent law-abiding citizens and confiscate an important tool that protects their human rights. There's absolutely no reason of concern or worry at all, as perfectly again highlighted by Awaken with JP, the YouTube channel that we played a small clip in the beginning of this broadcast. If you want to watch the full video, it is linked down in the description below. Definitely watch it after watching this video. He's really doing some on-point satire and comedy that at least allows us to laugh at the current situation that we are all in. A situation where government officials are becoming more sensational, more hyperbolic, more divisive, as now we have 2 U.S. senators saying that they will not vote for anyone inside of the Biden candidate that is not a specific color of skin that they like or an orientation that they prefer. Yes, 2 U.S. senators just proudly declared their racist viewpoints, acknowledging that to them, the color of a person's skin is way more important than the actual merit that they have to serve in government. Believe it or not, obesity was not on their list of criteria for individuals that they want in government or power, but this just shows you how far down the lexicon we are going to with an ever-aggressive government that is being led by a man that doesn't even know he's having a press conference on the day of the press conference. This is the same president of the United States that received the most amount of votes than any other president in recorded American history, and he's been dodging and weaving the mainstream media from any questions, from any accountability, from any transparency, as of course many times he just refuses to answer their questions. And let's be honest here, if he was a pilot of an airplane, I think it's safe to say that many people definitely would choose to not fly if he was their pilot. But now he has nuclear launch codes and is helping to allow special interests and multinational corporations to be more powerful than they ever have been before, that of course are heavily benefiting off of many of his policies that prioritize these special interests, that even deny the existence of pee bottles, just like Amazon News just tweeted that such things are not true, even though they're heavily documented, showing the absolute horrendous conditions that they keep some of their workers in. And as governments become bigger, less accountable, corporations becoming more powerful, independent voices speaking out against them are becoming less available, as of course all the big tech social media monoliths are like, cut it out, guys, if you want the money. Probably one reason why we've been fully demonetized. But hey, we started a new t-shirt store that is helping us recoup some of the costs, where you could get a whole bunch of stuff: masks, face gear, hats, cell phone cases, you name it, shirts we can't even show you here. All, of course, on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. Click the link in the description below. Scroll around. You'll find at least that it will be very amusing to go through our very entertaining catalog of merchandise that is available for you. Only exclusively right now on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. Also, yesterday's video is up on lukeuncensored.com, where I went into detail about how most men will most likely be infertile by 2045. That video up right now, lukeuncensored.com. Now, in my opinion, there are two very big issues that there's a large disconnect when it comes to what the mainstream media purports as reality compared to the actual reality. One of them is an ever-violent government that bombs countries indiscriminately overseas, trying to make their citizens defenseless, as of course there's even previous research showing that previous legislation on this very issue, after a lot of research and policy analysis, almost unanimously found that it had no significant public safety impact at all. But still, that's not something that's widely discussed or talked about or even debated, which it should be. And it's definitely not stopping this federal government from pushing towards a very dangerous situation that will, of course, make many people unsafe. Another issue that this same government believes in, that I believe there's a larger disconnect with, is, of course, the efficacy of lockdowns, which a lot of data, a lot of research is showing absolutely has very little impact on dealing with the sickness of 2020, especially when you compare states like Florida to California. There's absolutely no significant difference when you look at the numbers per capita, and we are actually seeing that many of the government heavy-handed approach towards lockdowns and restricting human beings have had a detrimental effect on humans. In many instances, not just with, of course, mental health, physical health as well, financial calamities that are going to be ensuing because of those decisions, but also along with the cases, as we're learning right now in Europe, where a lot of the mainstream media news articles are talking about the number of cases spiking and most European countries inducing more lockdowns, when we have the case study of Sweden, which we said from the very beginning was going to be the most important case study to see what approach is actually the right one to deal with this. And it looks like Sweden has been doing a far superior, better job than many other European countries that, of course, fully locked down. Sweden partly locked down, mostly resisted it for the majority of 2020, and they saw lower 2020 deaths than, of course, much of Europe, and this is even being reported by Reuters. Now again, these are two issues that many powerful people, many billionaires have an invested interest in, and that's why it's important when it comes to individuals like Bill Gates, which we're going to be talking about now, that this is an individual that supports both of these very negative policies. Bill Gates, even though he has many armed guards usually around him, top-notch security, supports people being disarmed and left defenseless, as he has donated substantial amounts of money for groups to carry out such actions. He also is a big supporter and proponent of lockdowns, as of course he publicly slammed and attacked the United States with their approach towards the sickness in 2020, while of course congratulating China that not only severely locked down, but barricaded people in their own homes that passed away from not being able to go outside, using forced detentions and starvation modification, while arresting journalists and medical doctors that were trying to warn the world that this was happening. To Bill Gates, this was an approach that he complimented, that he said China did a great job on. It's also important to note that Bill Gates and his foundation are also working with China hand in hand and figuring out ways to help out the Communist Chinese Party. The Chinese president even publicly thanked Mr. Bill Gates for all the support that he's been giving to the Chinese Communist government. And now Bill Gates is moving to his next project, which, by the way, the Chinese are pioneers of, and that is weather modification, trying to, of course, block out the sun. This is a previous article from Forbes. And again, we've been talking about this crazy, insane plan for a long time on this independent media organization, and now it is becoming reality. Previously, it was reported that Bill Gates wants to fight climate change by spraying dust into the atmosphere in order to block the sun so he could allegedly stop global warming. Yes, Bill Gates financed a development to dim the sun that would reflect sunlight out of the Earth's atmosphere and, quote, triggering a global cooling effect. This was the plan that Mr. Epstein's friend, billionaire, cutthroat, rootless businessman, as compared by many individuals, was bankrolling under the name of the Stratospheric Controlled Petrobutane experiment, which is going to be going live very soon. The project was launched by Harvard University scientists that also have had long, extensive connections to individuals like Jeffrey Epstein. And this is a very dangerous project that many scientists have been warned there could be some very dangerous, serious implications because of, especially the fact that you have a billionaire trying to control the weather in the entire world. Literally creating weather modification. This from the man that was the biggest bankroller of Monsanto, the company that is settling unknown amounts of money to their victims. But again, this is absolutely ridiculous on many levels. Bill Gates shouldn't be able to play God. What are going to be the long-term implications in blocking out the sun, which of course many people rely on for vitamin D, nitrous oxide production, people's circadian rhythms. The sun helps people improve their mood and sleep. It allows them to have healthy hormones. It lowers cholesterol. It's essential in making dopamine, serotonin, melatonin. It helps people lower blood pressure. It improves oxygenation. It decreases lactic acid. It improves blood glucose and has a slurry of other important elements to human life and existence for the average human being. And now Bill Gates, whose family has extensive ties to eugenicists, are trying to block out the sun. The sun, by the way, which we're also finding out produces vitamin D, which according to some medical studies is accounting to 9 out of 10 deaths related to the sickness in 2020 when a patient is insufficient in vitamin D. Yes, there's been some studies highlighting and suggesting that people who don't have the right amount of vitamin D levels account for 9 out of 10 deaths related to the sickness in 2020. And as the government locked people down, told them not to go outside, not to go to the gym, Bill Gates, who right now is telling you life will go back to normal in 2022 now, is literally trying to spray chemicals into the atmosphere to block out the sun from you. Holy freaking cow. I want to raise the alarm bells here. Ding, 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 ding. We have a crazy billionaire that thinks he could do whatever the hell he wants, and he needs to be stopped immediately. And again, he's trying to justify this with all the help of the mainstream media that is usually just brown-nosing and kissing his butt no matter what he pulls out there to the general public. As of course, during a recent AMA on Reddit, where he was taking questions from random citizens, he told people to, quote, be open to ideas that seem wild to fight climate change. He was talking about this idea, which obviously any rational thinking human being will have some serious questions and concerns about. The mainstream media is pushing this. Look at Newsweek. Bill Gates' funded study to dim sunlight may be needed against horrific climate change. Look at the framing that Newsweek establishes here that is outright propaganda, disinformation, of course, doing the bidding of the billionaire who is gaining more and more power over the world. The same billionaire that during this AMA, where he was trying to convince people to be open to these, quote, wild ideas, ignored direct, specific questions regarding his long-term relationship with convicted child trafficker and abuser Jeffrey Epstein. Yes, Bill Gates refused to answer why he had a very close relationship to Jeffrey Epstein. Meanwhile, he was taking every other question, because that's what you're supposed to do during an AMA. He refused to answer that one very specific question, which should be raising a lot of freaking alarm bells because he has the mainstream media doing his bidding, connections to eugenicists, especially with his family's ties, known to be a rootless billionaire, supports all the policies that limit people's personal responsibilities, people's personal freedoms, while of course promoting the Chinese government. And now, this summer, a large balloon which he commissioned will be released in Sweden this June near the Arctic town of Kiruna that will climb 12 miles and will be the first attempt trying to block out the sun. Yes, Bill Gates this summer will be releasing chemicals into the atmosphere trying to block out the sun in the first test of trying to control the sun and the weather. This is active, this is going live, and absolutely no one voted for this. No one said, yes, I think this sweater-wearing weirdo should be able to control the weather of the world. And again, all of this is used under the disguise of climate change, which, again, there's some very serious debates upon. But you don't even need to debate that specific, large, very confusing topic. You don't even need to go there. There's many scientific experts and critics saying that this could be disastrous for the world. The project director of this is even saying that the scale for geoengineering is terrifying. Many other people are saying the rational thing and saying that there could be untold consequences because this unusual technique could be disastrous for weather systems in ways that nobody could predict. And obviously, that is the case here when you have a billionaire trying to play God. My goodness, this needs to be stopped immediately. And you see here some of the graphics of how they believe that this will be working. And we have to acknowledge that a lot of the science surrounding climate change has been heavily bankrolled by individuals like Bill Gates that, according to many scientists, has created a situation called the Bill Chill, which is preventing people from criticizing Bill Gates and many of his projects. Since, of course, Bill Gates has his tentacles in so many aspects of the scientific community that many people are afraid to even criticize him, since they know doing so will cause Bill Gates to pull funding from other projects that they may be related to in one way or another. And it's important to acknowledge here that there would be a lot more criticism of Mr. Bill Gates if he wasn't financially tied into so many of these institutions that, of course, have been silenced by him and his money. There's other individuals like Start Hasdinlin, the University of Edinburgh professor, who came out and said that this won't even do anything to remove or stop the main cause of global warming. So if it's not meant to do what Bill Gates claims this is meant to do, why in the fricking world are they doing it? Again, China, one of the biggest countries that is moving forward with weather modification, is actually also one of the world's biggest polluters, which also should make you wonder about the very cozy relationship that Bill Gates has with that country and its president. You would think there would be a little bit more criticism, a little bit more skepticism here, but no, it's just a love affair from many people's perspectives. This latest Bill Gates plan is shocking, and it's terrifying, and there's a huge mainstream media psychological operation ongoing right now to try to either obfuscate that this is happening or try to convince you that this is something good. But yeah, any common sense person will understand that ruthless billionaires with extensive ties to child traffickers and abusers shouldn't be trusted to control the weather of the earth. Jeez, is that so hard to comprehend, to understand? If you understand this, share this video right now with your friends and family members to counter the psychological disinformation propaganda efforts for this that are ongoing right now. Your help is more crucial than ever. We're living in absolutely insane times. There should be at least a bigger discussion, a debate, at least even a vote to try to decide, hey, these larger geoengineering world consequential events and project should at least be voted upon and approved by the public of the earth. They're not. Billionaires are just doing whatever they want, and this is a world where they play by a different set of rules because of this idea of governance. And of course, collectivism, which is utterly destructive. I'm not with that. If you're not with that as well, share this video with your friends and family members. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. I might make another video on Luke Uncensored about this, just going off. I'll let you know in the next video if that happens. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, and this is why. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.